What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Scratch Agency podcast, hosted by Scratch Agents for Scratch Agents. My name's Stephen Turnbull, founder of T5 Insurance Services in Clinton, New York, and I'm joined by my co-host today, the one and only, you already know, hold your applause, Mr. Shawn Fitzgerald, founder of Sound Harbor Insurance in Long Island, New York. Ladies and gentlemen, this show is brought to you by Hawksoft, your family-owned and operated agency management system serving independent agencies with teams from 1 to 300 plus employees. John in New York, an agency owner, says that he likes Hawksoft because of their willingness to listen to agents and adapt the platform to their needs. Mr. Fitzgerald, how are we doing today?
We're doing good from -6 degrees. How about you, my friend?
About the same.
Love
Everything is a winter wonderland. We had no snow in the forecast last night and woke up to 8 inches. And shout out to our man, Tamron. He called me because with the winter storm that the whole country got, he said, I want to let you know that we're supposed to get 8 inches tomorrow and everything's shutting down. I'm not leaving my house for 4 days. So we laughed about that this morning because I sent him a picture on the way to the gym with the 8 inches that we got.
Yeah.
Different worlds.
Yeah.
But I know we got a solo today because there was a conversation that came up and we wanted to hit on it. I think we have hit on this maybe a little bit in the past, but more specifically around lead quality. And I also think it'll be valuable to those listening because our leads could not be more opposite. And the way that we, I guess, qualify those, get those, I think we can have a good discussion around this. So I don't know if you want to start, you want me to start, you tell me.
Yeah, I'll start.
You're the captain now.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I would start with, so to your point, our leads couldn't be more opposite from each other. So I think most people know, but in case you don't, paid ads, that is how we get a majority of our leads via Facebook, Instagram, Google, website, that type of stuff. So for us, what we noticed is that like lead quality is often a function of the lead response time. So if we get a new lead and we call this thing in 60 seconds, and this happened to me yesterday, it happened to me a bunch of times last week. You call someone within 60 seconds of them filling out the form, they're like in shock. Every time they pick it, oh my God, I literally just clicked OK on that form. And I heard someone else say this, and it's so true. Chris and I just discussed this on his podcast. It's like the psychological thing that goes through the prospect's mind is like the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So if you call somebody like lightning fast, like, wow, Steven is really on top of his stuff. He really knows what he's doing. He must run a really tight ship over there. So that impacts the quality of the lead. Now, if I don't call that lead right away and I wait a day to call them, chances are they shopped with multiple people. They talked to other brokers, maybe. Now they don't really even want to talk to me because they already kind of got it taken care of, or they've done a bunch of research. So like the quality of the lead is like drastically lowered. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Can you break down too on the volume that you're doing, how important it is for you to qualify as soon as possible? And I shared this with the audience, but just as a reminder, when I came down to you and spent the day in the office together, what I was so impressed by was how fast you were trying to get to a no. And I say that in the sense of you're trying to get like these big objections, roof, whatever it is, your house built, second kitchen, all those things you talk about. You're trying to find those things out as soon as possible to say, sorry, we're not a good fit, so that you can go to the next one due to the volume that you have, which is honestly opposite with us. So I think that's interesting to point out, and then I can talk about on our side how it's different.
Yeah. I would say even before we have the conversation, like something I wrote down on this is like, if you want better leads, make it slightly harder to become one. So like on the front end, before I even speak to the person, I want to qualify them via the form I have them fill out. So, and this is just lessons I learned from making mistakes. So with the meta ad specifically, we ran, a bunch of creative around, high value home, coastal home stuff specifically. But we were still getting leads like, hey, I need a quote for my auto insurance. Like it was just like auto specific or somebody with a home that hasn't had insurance in a year because there's no mortgage on the property. A teenager living at home looking for a renter's policy because they're moving into an apartment. Like, we were getting a bunch of like unqualified leads. So what Chris and I connected on was like, hey, let's write down like the 3 to 5 most common things that will knock out your preferred client. And preferred client, you got to make sure you know what your target avatar is. So for us,
say that again. That was really good. Say that again. Say that.
You need to know who your avatar is.
The 3 to 5 things. I like that.
Yep. Yeah. 3 to 5. And like, you read the book 10X is greater than 2X. Like, in that book, they talk a lot about focusing on the top 20% of clients, slowly getting out of the other 80%, right? That was like a huge part of that book. And it's the same thing with insurance. Like, we want to focus on our top 20% clients. So for us, high value coastal homeowners, that's who we wanted to target. So all the creative is around that, and all our pre-qualifying questions on our form are built around that. So it'll literally say like, hey, do you own a home? And then, okay, yes. And then it'll say something like, have you had any claims in the last 5 years? Okay. Do you currently have an active insurance policy? How old is your roof? Like, those few things will knock somebody out of our like preferred program. So those are the things we have down. And like, I just want to reiterate that one line that I think is so important, is like, if you want better leads, make it slightly harder to become one.
And you're talking about become a lead for your agency,
a qualified lead.
And that's setting those parameters. You know what I think is interesting as I'm sitting here and listening to you talk about this is, let's talk about commercial for 30 seconds, in the sense of, there's a lot of talk about, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Prospect, if I can achieve these things for you, would it make sense for you to move forward with us? Right? Before we do loss runs, before we do this, before we do risk control, all of these things, the quote and hope conversation. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about it on personal lines, because it's so much faster to turn around a home and auto quote. And it's like, yeah, that's what this conversation is about, though. Right? Like, because it's interesting. I'll go over it in a minute, but like, my pre-qualifiers are really much different than yours because of market conditions, carrier access, whatever. Like, for example, we have carriers that will do a 30-year-old roof. There may be stipulations to it, but we do. So if we have to say, is your roof 10 years or older? I know that's something very specific for you and your market and your carriers. That doesn't matter as much to us as, do you have prior insurance if Correct. It's an auto lead?
Correct.
Right. And so I just think like, I love that you said that. That is so good. It was so good that I forgot it already, Shawn. The lead. Oh, say that again.
If you want better leads, make it slightly harder to become one.
Slightly harder to become one. And that's why I wanted to add that commercial parallel, because I don't think we think about that enough, as either shops that are just doing personal lines or shops that are doing both.
Yeah.
Of the value of our time.
Yep. And
how long is it taking our team to go from A to B to provide that proposal, whether it's home, auto, package, umbrella, everything.
Yep.
To find out that the roof's ineligible anyways.
And one thing I just implemented, I haven't implemented it for the 2 producers yet, but for myself, I started implementing it like a couple weeks ago. I just noticed a trend. The top, and that book that we mentioned before, like, it made me dive a little bit deeper into this, is like, I'm like, all right, my top 20% clients, I know it's high value coastal home. What else is it? Like, what else, like, from a behavioral standpoint, do they do that makes them a top client? And I started thinking of like the fact finding process. And one of the things I realized is the top 20%, the ones that give us home, auto, flood, umbrella, maybe they have a commercial building, they refer people to us. Every single one of them willingly shares the deck page. Willingly. They don't push back. They don't say, oh, what is this scam stuff, blah, blah, blah. Why do you need to see that? They just say, hey, yeah, how do I send it to you?
Okay. So you just teed me up. You just teed me right up.
I will not. Hard line in the sand. I no longer will even quote if I don't get the deck page, even on a personal policy. That's all. So tell
So
me
you just
about
teed me right up
yours.
perfectly. So different but similar to your pre-qualifying. The big three things for us is prior insurance.
Yep, that's a big one.
Specifically with auto, personal auto, we're
Yeah.
talking. If they fill out the Canopy link or provide deck pages,
Okay.
and then why they're shopping. And whoever's doing the discovery call, whoever's taking that first call, makes the judgment call on the temperament of why they're shopping. This morning, I had a contractor talk to him. He said, why are you shopping? I can never get my agent back to me. I ask him for certs, this and that. Nothing ever happens. He's at this agency this month, but then no,
Yeah.
that's completely different than my premium went up $4 a month and I'm looking, and we all know that, right?
Yeah.
But that's our pre-qualifying because, like I said, the roof age, some of the conditions, the houses up here in the market are a little bit more favorable to some of those risk with hair on it, we'll say, that you experience down there. That's a hard line. That's just the difference in our market that we've learned, right? I think the interesting topic about the speed to lead for us is it's still in mind. If there's any new listeners, whatever, we're 100% inbound referrals. If it's still, it is still very important speed to lead, but the only reason really I found that is for the wow factor.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, because generally when someone comes to us, they're not shopping 5 other agents.
No.
5 other companies. They've come to us because they have an issue, a problem, or a challenge, and their neighbor or their aunt or their mortgage officer or wherever has said, go talk to Steven and his crew at T5, and that referral is like teed up. So that's made because, and I say the speed is different because usually that discovery call is, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
And, the classic saying that we talk about all the time, ask the question, shut up and listen. What has you shopping today? What's your pain points? How can I help today? And then they're going to tell you everything they don't like about their current representation. They're going to tell you everything that they want, everything that's different. And you know how to dictate the conversation from there. But from that point is where it's really, here's what I need from you to get started. Then we'll do this. So it's interesting talking through with you. It's almost like it's an extra step for us. There's like an extra touch point of the discovery versus the people that are clicking on your lead button. They're either sending that right away because your automations hit them, or they send it to 2 other people and they know.
Yeah. Well, the speed to lead too is like, it's more of, if I call them within a minute of getting the lead, they're not shopping with several people because they feel like they got in touch with the person they needed to get in touch with.
Yeah.
So these aren't leads where 9 people get them. It's 99% of the time. If I call them right away, I'm not competing against other people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think this is interesting to bring up too. I have gotten close with an agent that's in my area that works for another agency. We'll just call it that, like a big group.
That's fair.
And we're in volunteer events together and whatever. And so we had coffee and he was talking to me about like, hey, I want to pick your brain on this risk. And it was a contractor or whatever, and gave him the old, like, you can quote this if you'd like, but Ricky was my best man in my wedding, so it's gonna have to take some serious difference for me. Like, I still think that's worth talking about, and there may be some people that are like, Steven, shut up, we've gone over this 5 times, but I like that person, that agent this month was like asking me like, well, what would you do about that, because I really like the business. But that's another hard stop for us. I know it's a hard stop for you, and I know it's a hard stop for many, but think of it from, it's a $20,000 contractor account. That would be great versus how much time you're going to spend with already knowing that they're not going to move.
Yep.
So, and I think that goes back to that original conversation of why you're shopping, or if you're prospecting and they have pain points that you can drive a wedge into versus I'm very happy, but take a look at it. I'll put myself in a hot seat. I have a personal lines client that is a very successful individual that I've been going after their commercial. And just for one reason or another, he can't understand the difference in like switching to us, and then just constantly calls me with his personal lines questions and constant complains about his commercial representation. And it's just one of those guys that's like a million miles a minute. So he's just not even thinking about it because it's already set up, and he doesn't want to take 2 seconds to think of it, changing it, But it's like, he was like, well, I've been with X company for 10 years, but you could take a look at it if you want, but they've been great. My agent's just terrible. And it's like, he's already telling me he's not going to really move. Yeah. He's not giving me what I need to do. Like, yeah, would that account be great? But how much time am I going to spend on it for nothing, that I could go look at other opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's all about.
I feel like that's such a broken record, but I feel like you can't say it enough because it comes up all the time, right? Like I think the interesting conversation around that is, where's the gray line of it's worth your time or it's not? And especially if we're talking to scratch agents, like that account can look great in the first year of business. You know, you need that revenue, you need whatever, but you gotta have that advocate in the back of your mind of just like, this isn't worth my time, and I gotta focus on people that want my service.
There's such a, and yeah, I'm with you, man. Like when you're first starting out, this is easier said than done. Like I didn't follow all these rules when I first started. I just needed to get as much revenue in the door to survive as possible, you know?
100%.
But, you know, I will say now that we're, you know, just at a much better point than when we first started, let's just be honest, we could be a little bit more picky on what we want because our time is worth something. And if I'm getting 100 leads, I don't want to spend all my time quoting 99 of them when I know only 30 of them are probably my qualified targeted avatar, you know?
What else I think is worth talking about is like, man, just because these are Shawn's pre-qualifying questions doesn't mean they need to be yours. Like we're a prime example in the last 16 minutes of this podcast that like set up something for your agency, your market, something that makes sense, right? Like we don't do no prior because we found that those are problematic for the book, and they're a lot of quoting and hoping if they're in that situation. Like, will we do no prior if a client's daughter is spinning off and doesn't have prior for auto and we know the relationship? Absolutely. But like the call-ins, like these are just things that we've sat and stuck with. And I think that's the other thing that's important too, is like, it's going to be a changing thing of what are these pre-qualifying questions, but like stick with what you're going to say and focus on those 3 to 5 things that you talked about.
Yeah. I think you just got to look at your top 10 clients, what makes them unique, you know, why are they your top 10, and then develop your questions and standards moving forward based off of that.
Yeah.
You know, so
that's good. I like that.
Yeah. I mean,
say you're saying one more time before we wrap this up.
Say my what?
The saying that you have written down in front of you.
If you want better leads, make it slightly harder to become one.
I love that. If you have anything to take away from today, that's it right there.
Yep.
Good.
I'm in the process of doing it now. We did it the first time with the meta ads, is like adding all the, do you have prior? How old is your roof? You know, all those questions. And now I'm going to add a second round. I'm going to make it even harder to become a qualified lead because, you know, I'm just looking at the data. You know, we're getting in touch with 60-something% of all the meta leads. We're quoting, you know, 30-something%, and we're writing, you know, like 15%, you know, so that tells me I still have a little bit of a lead quality issue. So I'm willing to spend more per lead to get a more qualified prospect, you know,
every day.
Yep. But that's all I got.
Fine tuning.
That's what we got to do. And that's why it's important to track the data, you know?
That's right.
So,
and make a playbook around it.
And make a play.
DM S Fitz on Instagram playbook, and I'll send that over to you. All right, everybody, that's another episode of the Scratch Agency Podcast. Thanks for joining us. Do us a favor, like the show, share the show, and subscribe. Most importantly, remember to dig down deep, believe in yourself, and own your own future. We'll see you next week. Take care.